Yeah, I think, well, the fact that he hadn't had a grade 11 season, he then played on the provincial under-17 team that between some grade 11 and 12, and they went to Vegas, and he actually missed a layup at the buzzer in a game, a pool game, and the net result of that miss was that they didn't play the team that had Jason Kidd on it the next day. And I'm sure that had they played in that game, there would have been a lot of people watching that game. But as it was, they were relegated to the morning game. Nobody saw them play. Nobody really knew who he was. So it was just a question of, but for me, having seen him play with our senior national team in the summer, practice, and see how good he was, that he was actually better than any of the guards that were on the team, I thought, well, this is like an exceptional player. So we got together, where you're interested in going. We named probably 30, 40 schools, checking their roster, who's coming back, do they need guards, Then I wrote to all the schools and said, I really believe that there's a very special player here, a diamond in the rough. You really should follow through on this guy. Don't take my word for it. I know you have no idea who I am and where we even exist, but contact Ken Shields, the national coach. He'll give you a point of reference. And almost all of them just blew it off as like, they were really his choices, and ones that we thought he enjoyed watching them play, and that fit with maybe the rosters that they had, who was leaving, but everything from Indiana, Virginia, Florida State, Maryland, Arizona, Washington, so lots. And I think the absolute irony is one place we didn't send a letter was Santa Clara. Well, he's got a shoebox full of letters that say thanks but no thanks. And then a couple of schools showed a bit of interest. Virginia said they were going to come up and watch the Island tournament, and eventually didn't. And there was a bit of back and forth with Indiana. But nothing came of that. Washington didn't even reply. And it was really, for me, it was probably the most disappointing. It was a fantastic senior basketball season, but the most disappointing thing for me was thinking, wow, this guy is really good, and nobody even knows. And I think Steve felt the same thing. Like, he just felt like screaming. He's yelling and screaming, but nobody could hear him. That he knew he was good enough, and it was a question of was anything going to happen? So. And the connection with Santa Clara was that Steve had played in the previous summer with the Canada Under-19s, who had played a game against Long Beach State. And the assistant for Long Beach State knew Scott Graydon, who was the volunteer assistant at Santa Clara, and said, boy, Scott, I saw this kind of intriguing guy on the Canada junior team. You should maybe follow up. And so, probably because that's the kind of guy a mid-major needs to chase, they did. And then it was, could we send a video? So we sent what is now in folklore at Santa Clara as the grainy cult video, shot in the old gym on a wavy handheld against terrible opposition. But at the same time, he makes a few moves in that tape. You're going, whoa. They make guys fall over trying to guard him. And anyway, so they were interested enough that they asked for another tape, and this time we got a proper tape on a tripod, and up at the university we played a big game against one of the other top schools, and it was that time they said, okay, now we're definitely interested. So Dick Davey, who was then the assistant coach, he came up to the provincial championships, and he said he watched Steve warm up for game one, and he was like looking over his shoulder thinking, please, no one else be here. And basically they offered him a deal that night. I was relieved, to be honest, because I thought I was a good judge of his ability, and what he'd always shown from grade 9 to 10, 10 to senior to the junior national team, to the senior national team, was an ability to elevate his game. He was so skillful and smart, and with so many good intangible qualities that if the game got bigger, faster, tougher, he could adjust. Some people, they hit the ceiling, they can't go any higher, but he always could move to the next level. So I definitely knew he could play Division I. And then really after, he was barely into his second year, and people are going, oh, this guy's going to be a first-round pick in the NBA.